The greeting. No human expected. The ship, Solace 1, landed on planet Veyrana just after sunrise. The sky was orange. The ground shimmered with glowing blue vines. Strange birds flew above the mountains in perfect circles. Captain Raylan Cross stepped off the ship ramp with his boots crunching the soft alien soil. Behind him, 5 members of his crew followed, eyes wide and alert. They were the first humans to visit this planet. And the Veyrana were waiting. A large group of tall, graceful alien beings stood across the landing zone. Their skin was pale silver, their hair soft and long like floating silk. Their eyes were big, glowing, and gentle. Most of them looked like women, tall, beautiful, elegant. They wore long, smooth dresses made of some kind of living fabric that shimmered as they moved. Raylan whispered to his crew, "Stay calm. Be respectful. This is a peaceful meeting." The Veyranas stepped forward, smiling. A woman with glowing blue eyes moved to the front. She looked directly at Raylan. Raylan stepped forward too. He placed his hand on his chest, a simple human sign of respect. Then the alien woman smiled wider, and slowly with both hands she lifted her dress from the front. Raylan's eyes widened. The crew behind him gasped. The alien said softly, "I greet you, brave one." Raylan took a step back. What is she doing?" Lieutenant Harris coughed. "I think that's their welcome." Another alien woman walked up to Lieutenant Diaz and did the same thing. Her dress lifted halfway, revealing bright, glowing patterns under her skin. They weren't body parts. They were like light tattoos, symbols that moved and shimmered in soft waves. All across the line, the female aliens began to lift their dresses, revealing those glowing markings. It was quiet. Very quiet. Raylan cleared his throat. "Okay, no one panic. This might be a cultural thing." Back on the ship, their translator AI finally spoke up. Note: on Veyrana, revealing personal biomarkings is a traditional and sacred greeting to off-worlders. It symbolizes respect, trust, and peaceful intent. Raylan looked at the AI screen. "You're telling me this is normal here?" "Yes," the AI replied. "To decline the greeting may be seen as deeply offensive." Lieutenant Diaz muttered, "Great. The first time I make alien contact, someone flashes glowing belly art at me." Raylan took a deep breath and turned back to the lead alien woman. He slowly bowed and said, "I receive your greeting, honored one." She lowered her dress and smiled warmly. "Then may peace stand between our stars." After the initial shock wore off, the humans were guided into a glowing garden filled with soft music and floating lights. Fruit hung from high branches, and gentle streams passed through glass-like rocks. Kira, the leader's daughter, stayed near Raylan. She was taller than him, graceful, and curious. She didn't speak much, but her eyes never left his face. Finally, she asked, "Why did you seem afraid when I greeted you?" Raylan scratched his head. "Well, where I come from, lifting your dress is usually private." She tilted her head. "But that's how we show someone our truth, our heart. Our memories are written in these markings. You are honored." Raylan nodded slowly. "I see. It's very different for us." She leaned closer. "Different is not wrong. It is only unknown." Raylan smiled. "You're wise." Kira smiled back, and her markings glowed a little brighter. Later that night, around a floating fire pit, the humans sat with the Veyrana Council. One human officer, Sergeant Bren, stood up awkwardly. "Permission to speak?" Raylan nodded. Bren cleared his throat. No offense, but I don't want to be shown underdress greetings again. It's too weird for me." The room fell silent. Several Veyranas looked hurt. A few even stood up and quietly left the circle. Kira frowned. "To reject our greeting is to reject us." Raylan stood quickly. "He didn't mean to offend you. This is new for all of us." Kira looked at him for a long moment, then said, "Then learn." She stood, bowed, and walked into the glowing forest. Raylan watched her disappear into the light, and he realized this mission wasn't just about space or diplomacy. It was about understanding what lies beneath the surface, literally and emotionally, trying not to look, but failing. Captain Raylan Cross had faced battles in deep space. He had flown through asteroid fields, fought pirates, and once survived a black hole jump. But nothing prepared him for the quiet pressure of trying not to stare at glowing patterns beneath an alien dress. The day after the strange greeting ceremony, Raylan found himself standing in the middle of Veyrana's learning garden, a peaceful place with tall, silver trees and stone paths that floated just above the ground. The Veyrana leader's daughter, Kira, walked beside him, her hands gently folded in front of her. Her long hair shimmered in the morning light and her skin seemed to glow softly with every step. She spoke in her calm voice. "Are you still thinking about our custom?" Raylan laughed awkwardly. "Is it that obvious?" She smiled. "You stare at the sky when I walk next to you, but the sky has no answers." He cleared his throat. "It's not that I don't respect your culture, it's just, where I come from, looking under someone's dress is considered, well, rude." Kira stopped and turned to face him. Her eyes searched his. "But you didn't see what was really there, did you?" Raylan blinked. "What do you mean?" She took a deep breath, and then, slowly, gracefully, lifted her dress again. Raylan turned his head to the side, eyes half closed. But this time, he didn't see what he expected. Under the fabric wasn't skin, not in the human sense. Instead, a glowing map of colors swirled across her body, like stars moving in slow motion. The light pulsed in rhythm with her breath. Symbols like ancient runes moved along her legs, her hips, her sides. They weren't random. They told a story. Raylan's gaze softened. What are those?" Kira let the fabric fall back into place. "They are memories. My people call them soul marks. We're born with the base pattern. But as we grow, each emotion, every love, every fear, every great choice, changes the light." Raylan stared. "So when you show someone your marks, you're sharing your whole life?" She nodded. "Exactly." Raylan sat on a floating bench and looked at his own hands. "We shake hands. That's our greeting," he said. "Sometimes we salute. Sometimes we bow. But what you do, it's like sharing your heart." Kira joined him on the bench. "Most humans look away. You tried not to. That means something." Raylan gave a soft laugh. "I was trying really, really hard." She smiled. "Next time, don't try, just see." Meanwhile, back at the human camp, Lieutenant Harris wasn't having a good time. He had just spilled his food packet on his boots, dropped a translator chip into the soil, and accidentally walked through a group of Veyrana women who all greeted him at once. He came back into the tent red-faced, his hands in the air. "Okay, I give up. This place is impossible." Sergeant Bren laughed. "What happened now?" "They all lifted their dresses at me again. I tried to bow and tripped over my own foot. I might have insulted 5 families and possibly proposed to someone's grandmother." The crew burst out laughing. Raylan walked in and raised an eyebrow. "Glad to see morale is high." "Sir," Harris said, "you didn't warn us these aliens had glowing underdress memory tattoos." "I didn't know either," Raylan replied, "but maybe we should stop looking at it like a joke." That night at the Veyrana feast, Kira invited Raylan to sit beside her. Soft music floated in the air, made from crystal bowls and wind chimes. Glowing fruits were passed around. Everyone laughed and danced. Even Harris managed to greet someone, properly, without falling over. Kira leaned toward Raylan and whispered, "You still think our greeting is strange?" He smiled, more relaxed now. "It's strange, yes, but not wrong. Just new." She tilted her head. "And would you like to share your memory marks with me?" Raylan paused. "I don't have any glowing patterns, but I have scars." "Scars tell stories too," she said softly, "even if the world can't see them." Their eyes met. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. and in that silence something new began between them, built not on misunderstanding, but on curiosity and respect. The human who refused the greeting. The Veyrana sun was soft and golden when the human team was invited to the House of Honor, a sacred space where great stories were told, where ancient songs were sung, and where warriors once shared their first glows. Captain Raylan stood near the tall silver archway, looking at his team. Everyone wore clean uniforms. Translator chips were updated. Even Lieutenant Harris had managed to keep his boots clean for once. Raylan gave a calm but serious order. Remember, this isn't just a meeting. It's their version of history. We respect every moment, even if we don't understand it. They all nodded. Everyone except Sergeant Cole. Cole was a tough Marine. Big, square-jawed, always ready for battle. But he didn't believe in alien customs. He believed in orders, facts, and staying in his comfort zone. I still think this is ridiculous, he muttered, arms crossed. Lifting dresses to say hello? What's next, hugging plants? Raylan gave him a sharp look. This is diplomacy, Sergeant. You don't have to agree. Just don't disrespect it. Cole didn't respond, but his eyes said everything. Inside, the House of Honor, the humans were guided to a circular platform with glowing crystal tiles. The air smelled like flowers and warm spice. The walls displayed moving light patterns, stories told in color, not words. Then the Veyrana hosts entered. 10 female elders, tall, elegant, glowing softly from beneath their woven dresses. As one, they stepped forward, bowed their heads, and slowly lifted their dresses. Their biomarkings shone in soft blue and gold, telling stories of their youth, their battles, their losses, and love. It was silent, peaceful, powerful. Most of the humans lowered their heads in respect. But Sergeant Cole? He rolled his eyes and took a step back and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "No offense, ladies, but I didn't come across the galaxy to get flashed." The room froze. One Veyrana woman slowly lowered her dress and blinked. Another let her markings fade completely. Kira stood from her place beside Raylan, eyes wide, face pale. She looked at Cole like he had slapped her. "This is not flashing," she said, her voice cold and quiet. "This is who we are." Cole shrugged. "Yeah, well, I didn't ask to see who you are." Raylan stood up fast. "Sergeant outside." Now. But the damage was already done. The elders stood and turned their backs, an ancient gesture of shame and dismissal. Even the lights in the room dimmed. Kira didn't look at Raylan. She walked past him in silence, her dress wrapped tightly around her. He followed her outside, leaving the others inside to face the weight of what had just happened. Kira stood beneath a glowing tree, arms folded, her head down. Raylan stopped beside her. "I'm sorry." She didn't respond. He tried again. "Cole doesn't speak for all of us. Still nothing." Finally she whispered, "You say you come in peace, but your people fear our truth. You want our help, our science, our friendship, but not us." Raylan looked away, because deep inside, she was right. Back at the ship, Cole sat alone, arms crossed. Harris approached. "What the hell were you thinking?" Cole shrugged. "I said what everyone else is too polite to admit." "No," Harris snapped. "You said what people say before wars start." Cole scoffed. "I didn't sign up for a cultural lesson." "Well, maybe," Harris said. "You're on the wrong planet." The next day, the human mission was nearly canceled. The Veyrana Council debated whether to end contact with Earth entirely. Raylan stood in front of them and made a choice. He stepped forward, and in front of the entire Veyrana Council, he kneeled. Then, he slowly unzipped his uniform from the collar, exposing a long, rough scar across his chest. "This is my story," he said. "It's not glowing. It's not beautiful. But it's real. I can't show you lights, but I can show you pain, and choice, and hope." He looked at Kira. "I'm not here to laugh. I'm here to learn." One of the elders stood. She walked forward, and for the first time in front of a human, she lifted her dress and took Raylan's hand, placing it gently on her markings. The room gasped. Then slowly, light returned to the walls, and peace returned to the mission. That night, Kira met Raylan under the stars. She didn't say much. She just looked at him and said, "You're different from the others." Raylan smiled. "So are you." Then she said something even more surprising. "Would you like to see my story?" He nodded, and she lifted her dress, not as a greeting, but as a gift. The Temple of Marks. The wind was quiet on the cliffs of Vayrana. Below, the glowing forests hummed with soft blue light. Above, stars blinked through a lavender. But at the top of the cliff stood something different, something ancient. The Temple of Marks. No walls. No ceiling. Just a wide circular stone floor, smooth and silent, surrounded by archways made of crystal. In the center, a glowing pool reflected the night sky, even though it wasn't water. It was pure memory. Captain Raylan followed Kira up the long path. They walked in silence. Kira's steps were light, like the wind itself carried her. Raylan's boots crunched softly against the glowing sand. "Why here?" he asked. She looked ahead, not answering yet. When they reached the temple, she finally said, "This is where our stories are born." Raylan looked around. "It's beautiful." Kira turned. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of something heavy, something old. "This is where we receive our first light," she said softly. "When a Vayrana child comes of age, they are brought here. The pool reads the truth inside them and marks them with their first memory." Raylan stepped closer to the pool. It shimmered as he looked into it. "What do you see?" she asked. He stared for a moment, then frowned. "Myself," he said. "But younger, in my academy uniform." The image shifted. Now he saw himself, crying, holding a medal over a friend's grave. His voice went quiet. "How is it doing that?" Kira replied. "The pool doesn't show what we want. It shows what we hide." She knelt by the edge and touched the light with her fingers. Her body glowed. The patterns under her dress lit up again, brighter than before. But this time, she didn't stop at just lifting her dress. She stepped into the pool. The light rose around her, wrapping her in soft ribbons of energy. And suddenly, her story played in front of him. Raylan saw a child, Kira, running through the forests, laughing with others. Then darkness, screams, fire, ships above, bombs falling, enemies attacking. She stood in front of a younger sibling, shielding them with her body. Then light and silence. The image shifted again. Kira alone, rejected by other species, called strange, laughed at for her ridiculous, glowing dances. Then one last image. Kira standing on the landing pad, smiling softly as his ship arrived. The light faded, and she stepped out of the pool, glowing and quiet. "That's what my marks mean," she whispered. "Not beauty, not pride, just survival." Raylan didn't speak. For once he had no words, because in that one moment he understood. He understood why her people lifted their dresses without shame. They weren't showing off. They were showing truth. Kira sat beside him on the edge of the temple floor. She looked at him, serious but kind. "Why do humans hide their scars?" Raylan took a deep breath. "Because we're afraid of being seen too clearly." "And yet," she said, "your people look at the stars and call themselves brave." He chuckled softly. "We're complicated." Kira smiled faintly. "So are we." They sat in silence for a while, watching the pool shift. Then Raylan did something unexpected. He stood, took off his gloves, and rolled up his sleeves. He stepped into the light, and the pool responded. His image appeared, not of strength but of loss, a battlefield, friends screaming, a failed rescue mission, Then another memory. Raylan alone sitting in a medical bay watching ships return from war, without his squad. Tears streamed down the memory's face. Kira turned to look at him. "You carry much," she whispered. Raylan nodded. "We all do. We just wear it inside." She reached out, touched his wrist, and said the most powerful thing of all. "Then let us teach you how to let it out." Far below the temple, lights blinked on across the capital. A signal had been sent, someone was watching, and they didn't like what they saw. A human entering the sacred pool. A Verana. Letting him. It was more than connection. It was change. Her story broke him. The wind at the top of the cliffs had changed. What once felt calm now carried a chill. The stars above Verana still shined, but something beneath them had shifted, and Captain Raylan Cross felt it in his bones. He stood at the edge of the Temple of Marks, staring into the memory pool still glowing faintly from his last step inside. His hands were still shaking, not from fear, from what he'd seen, what Kira had shown him. Kira sat across from him, her knees drawn in close, her silver hair glowing in the starlight. Her eyes were locked on the pool, silent. Raylan finally found his voice. "You shouldn't be alive." She looked up. He continued softer. "No one could survive that blast, the one that took your city. But you stood in front of your little brother. You shielded him." Kira nodded. "He lived. I didn't." Raylan blinked. "What do you mean?" "My heart stopped," she said. "The medics said I was gone for 4 minutes. When they brought me back, I could barely speak. I couldn't walk." Raylan sat beside her, listening. Kira's eyes shimmered. "And when I came back, they were all gone, my family, my friends, my city, my light." Dimmed. She lifted the edge of her dress again. Not for ceremony, not for tradition, but for truth. Her markings, glowing scars of blue, gold, and deep red, shaped a spiral across her side. "This," she whispered, tracing it, "is not beauty. It is grief, it is survival, and it is why I show it with pride." Raylan lowered his head. He had seen death before. He had carried teammates in his arms. He had stood at too many graves. But Kira's story wasn't just about death. It was about living after it, and that broke him. "I don't know how you kept going," he said. "I didn't," she replied. "Not at first. I stopped shining. My markings faded. My people feared I was lost." "Then what brought it back?" Kira looked at him. "You." Raylan froze. "Me?" "You didn't look away. Even when you didn't understand us. You stood still. You asked questions. You wanted to learn." She touched her chest. "That made my light return." Far below the cliffs, in a dark room filled with blinking red screens, a shadow watched them from afar. The Verana watcher, dressed in black robes, leaned forward. "This human," she said, "is changing her." Another voice replied from the shadows. "She is letting him into the sacred ways. It will break the balance. They are becoming too close. We must act." A signal was sent, a warning. Back at the temple, Raylan stood again, watching, the stars with Kira beside him. He looked at her markings, once strange, now beautiful. "I've seen battlefields," he said, "but I've never seen anyone carry war on their skin." Kira didn't smile, but her voice was soft. "You carry it too, Raylan. Not in your skin, but in your silence." He nodded, and for the first time, he said the words he had never said, aloud. "I lost my entire unit. I gave the wrong command. They trusted me, and they died." Kira didn't speak. She just reached forward, touched his wrist, let the light of her markings pass through her fingers, and softly wrap around his hand. Her story and his finally connected. But their moment was cut short. A sharp buzz came from Raylan's comlink, a message from the ship. "Captain, urgent transmission from Verana High Council. You are ordered to leave the sacred ground immediately. Your presence is now a violation. Raylan's jaw tightened. Kira stood slowly. They saw us, she said. They think I've betrayed our customs. You haven't, Raylan replied. You just showed them what they're afraid to face. She looked at him. Truth. He nodded. And change. Down below, ships began to move. Not human ships. Verana patrols. They were coming. Kira turned to him, her voice steady. If they ask me to reject you, I won't. Raylan took her hand. Then we'll stand together. And, as they looked into the stars, two souls from two worlds, stitched together by pain and light, the first sparks of rebellion began to burn. The human greeting rain began to fall on the sacred cliffs of Verana. Not heavy, just soft, silver rain, like tears from the sky. Kira stood at the edge of the Temple of Marks. Her glowing skin flickered beneath her soaked dress. The lights beneath her markings dimmed slightly. Down below, patrol ships waited. Orders had been sent. Remove the human. Detain the girl. Protect tradition. But neither of them moved. Raylan stood beside her, chest bare, scars visible. His eyes were steady. We started something, he said quietly. Kira nodded. And now they want to end it. Raylan looked out across the dark hills. Not unless we show them something new. Hours later, inside the great Verana gathering hall, hundreds of citizens sat in silence. The High Council stood at the center, cold and unmoved. The glowing rings beneath their feet pulsed red, a signal of judgment. Captain Raylan stood alone. No armor, no weapons, just a simple black tunic and bare hands. The council speaker stepped forward. You entered the sacred pool. You were shown private memories. You violated the boundary between species. What do you say for yourself? Raylan stepped forward slowly, and then he knelt. The crowd gasped. The council whispered. Kira stepped from the shadows, her eyes locked on him. Raylan took a deep breath. I didn't come to insult you, he said. I came to learn. He placed one hand on his chest, the other on the floor. This is how humans show truth, he said. We kneel to honor. We place a hand over the heart to offer it. And we open our other hand to say, we come with nothing. Hidden. He stayed like that. Still. Honest. Silent. The council members didn't move. Until one of the elders, an old woman with faded markings, slowly stepped down from the platform. She looked at Raylan, then at Kira, and then she mirrored him. She knelt, placed her hand over her heart, opened her other hand. Her markings glowed, brighter than they had in years, one by one. Others followed. Kira stepped forward last. She reached out, lifted Raylan's hand, and gently guided it to her markings. I give you my story, she said, and I give you my scars, he replied. From that moment on, a new greeting was born. 1. That mixed light and scars, kneeling and rising, human vulnerability and alien tradition. Back on the ship, Harris watched the live feed in shock. Did he just rewrite an entire culture? Bren nodded. With one kneel. HFY, Harris muttered with a grin. Humanity forges. Yesterdays. In the weeks that followed, human visitors were taught the new greeting before stepping off. Their ships. They no longer stared at glowing dresses with confusion. Instead, they knelt, opened their hand and shared something back. Sometimes a story, sometimes a scar, sometimes a memory. And the Veranas listened, not just with ears, but with light. At the center of it all, Kira and Raylan stood side by side. They didn't need titles. They didn't need medals. They had something more powerful, mutual truth. But not everyone celebrated. In a shadowed chamber far from the gathering hall, a cloaked figure sent a message. The girl is corrupted, the human, dangerous. The temple must be reclaimed by the old ways. The reply came in a single word. Proceed. The warrior who walked again and led a new world. The Temple of Marks stood still at sunrise. Golden light poured across the cliffs of Verana, warming the stone floor where two figures stood, side by side. Captain Raylan Cross, human. Kira of House Loomis, Verana. Their shadows stretched long across the sacred ground, their stories forever marked in the light. But this morning was not about symbols. It was about choices. The people of Verana had gathered below the cliffs waiting. They had heard whispers of rebellion, of ancient leaders angry at change, of plans to silence the human who had knelt in peace. Raylan knew it too. He stood with his eyes closed, breathing. "Steady, I don't want to fight," he said. Kira's voice was calm beside him. "Then stand stronger than their fear." A fleet approached from the east. Small, silent patrol crafts, each marked with the old crest, the symbol of Verana's oldest law. No foreign soul shall enter sacred light. From the lead ship, a voice crackled through the air. "Step away from the temple, the human must be removed, the girl must return to the circle." Kira stepped forward. "I am no longer part of the circle," she said loud enough for all to hear. "I am part of something greater now." She looked at Raylan. "I choose unity." The ships landed, but the soldiers didn't fire. They expected fear, panic, resistance. Instead, they found something else. Behind Kira and Raylan, hundreds of Verana citizens stepped out of the forest. Elders, teachers, farmers, children, all marked with light, and beside them, humans. Kneeling, palms open, scars shown, no weapons, no lies, just stories. The commander of the patrol stepped out. He was old, tall, and heavily marked. His face was full of years and his voice full of pride. "You have broken the code," he said to Kira. She looked him in the eyes. "No. I followed the deeper code. The one before fear was written into it." He frowned. "And who gave you the right?" Raylan answered softly. She gave it to herself. That silence, that one moment of stillness, changed everything. The commander looked around. He saw the people, the light, the truth, and slowly he knelt. That was the moment history changed, not with a fight, but with a choice. Weeks later, a new tradition was born. It was called the shared greeting. It combined the Verana markings with human memory. At the beginning of every gathering, two people, one from each species, would step forward. One would lift their dress, revealing glowing marks. The other would show a scar or speak a painful truth. Together they would touch hands. Together they would say, "I see your story. You are not alone." Kira became the voice of the new circle, not a ruler, but a bridge. Raylan returned to Earth, but not for long. He came back to Verana as an ambassador, but also something more: a friend, a partner, a symbol. The final scene took place on a field where children played. One Verana child ran up to Raylan, giggling. "Mr. Raylan, do humans really carry their stories inside their skin?" He smiled and pointed to his chest. "Right here." "The child blinked. "Can I hear one?" Raylan sat down in the grass. "You can hear all of them." And as the suns of Verana rose higher into the sky, two species, once strangers, now allies, walked side by side across a world reborn. All because one girl lifted her dress and one human dared to look closer. The end.